everyone, welcome to Credential Up Houston. My name is Margaret Ford Fisher. Every career requires a qualified talent pool. The simple question, though, is how robust is the labor supply? The labor supply, among other factors, is what attracts businesses to our city, and that is also what, among other factors, keeps the businesses local and operating with a competitive advantage. But even with that, a major question is how to sustain the workforce in the face of major disruptions, such as in the case of COVID-19. We will discuss the issues with Mr. Mitch Beckmann, who is the Chief Human Resources Officer at Weber and one of the past directors of HR Houston and a director with HR Houston now. Mr. Beckman, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, it's my privilege.
Thank you. You know, your company is listed online as a leader in construction and infrastructure in the United States. Tell us about the COVID-19 impact on the construction business and lessons that are being learned by not just you, but your staff and other chief human resource officers who have shared that information with you.
Well, absolutely. Well, like everyone, here we are. We're coming up 1 year dealing with the COVID virus. So you say virus now, everybody knows exactly what you're talking about, right? You don't have to even say COVID-19 anymore, the virus. And it's had an impact because it's affected families, obviously. Chief among it, it affects families. And many of us have been devastated. We've had friends, we've had family that have succumbed to a virus. And so chief among everything, that's the biggest impact that it's had on people. But we're very fortunate at Weber as a construction company in that we're considered an infrastructure company. And so therefore our employees of keeping water, wastewater going, keeping the highways and roads going has allowed us to continue to work as many construction companies. And one of the things that I stress to our people all the time is don't let this, how can I put that this is a gift of work that we have, that many folks during this time, their companies haven't been able to go. They've had to shut down. It had an impact on restaurants and other service-like companies, and yet for some reason we have the gift of work and we get to work, and we should have a spirit of gratitude about that and take full advantage with that. And so as a company, we've done really well. We've been able to work when they closed down a lot of the highways and roads, when they were having the shut in place going on. It allowed us to be able to work without cars shooting by us. Those are like missiles. My men and women are out there on those projects sometimes, and the public, they just fly by you while you're out there working. And it allows us to continue to work in a safe manner. The other thing we've had to do is we had to put men and women out there together working. And what did they tell us? You need to wear the mask. And so we put mask and shield on our workforce, trying to work in a 6-foot separation. Sometimes you have to get together, keeping your hands clean. We've created these workstations where they can wash. And so our folks have had to go out there and work with new PPE equipment on and a new mindset on how we get work done. We also had to send employees home in a remote workplace that worked in the headquarters or the regional offices. And so very quickly we had to figure out how to do remote work, which in a way for a lot of companies has led to us to be more innovative in the way that we approach looking at processes, asking the question, why do we always do it that way? Can't we do it this way? So in a way, it's going to have, I think, a very positive impact for a lot of companies.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with what you are saying. That impact is really very significant. And with your message of a gift of work, I'm sure your employees have received that extraordinarily well. And also with the comment that you made about COVID not just affecting the employees, but the families.
Yeah.
Well, and that's critically important. Let me ask you a question about one of the points that you made. There is widespread reference to a lagging talent pool in many industries. However, you indicated that you really have not had that problem in some instances because of the type of work that your employees do. So in which areas are you finding the greatest shortage of talent in your area at Weber?
I mean, we're hiring people. We're having, not as far as we're able to get the project engineers and the white collar, blue collar. We're finding the talent we have. You know, as an educator, I think that one area, if I can, that I am worried about lagging, and it's not this year. It's going to be 2 years, 3 years from now. I'm really concerned of what's going on with our high schools and universities with the shutdown and the way our students are being taught right now. As an employer, I want them to get the best education that they can get. If it's technical training, if it's corporate training that they're getting, and the education. And so we have got to figure out in this COVID world how we can get students back in those high schools or remote. And I mean, that's a concern for employers right now, is how are we educating this generation that's coming up? You're
absolutely right. And that's one of the areas I would like to touch on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think you touched on a very significant point. And I'm wondering, how do you think educational institutions and businesses can work together to address this problem, even in a virtual environment?
One of the things I'm seeing students that were in a homeschool type situation, they're able to do the remote, or they've learned how to self-teach. What we have, those students that are in remote, they don't know how to do self-teach. So we have to teach people how to be learners, not to just receive, but how to go get. And so there's a mindset or shift in educating, if you will, how to be educated. And we're going to have to shift the way that students and how people, which will be great for the corporate world, which will be great for companies, because we want people, we want workers to be self-learners and go out. Don't always wait for the company to train you. How do you train yourself? And so I think that's going to be a major shift with the education of turning our students, our children, into self-learners, along with the teachers, along with the educators, but how to receive learning in a remote.
Yes, I agree. And I think the mindset that some young people have is that, well, the virtual learning is not for me.
Yeah.
That is sometimes due to the fact that they don't have the technology, or they don't quite know how to use the learning management system that is available to them. So teaching them how to self-learn is going to be very important as well, in order to keep that workforce pipeline fueled, so that you'll have the talent that you need in order to keep your business going.
Absolutely. And this is where a corporate world and educators need to partner in this process, because it's going to have an impact on us and education. It always does. And I wish I could get corporate companies to be in more partnership with our universities and with our school systems, because this is where our employees of the future are going to come from.
You're absolutely right about that. And I'd like to explore that idea further in just a few minutes, but Mr. Beckman, we will take a break. And when we return, we will discuss technology, and you touched on that just a moment ago, but we'll touch on technology and innovations in the construction industry and how that is affecting the lagging labor supply. So please stay with us.
Welcome to HTC.
Let me teach you.
Let me help you get college credits.
Let me train you for a new career.
Let me change your life.
Come learn with us.
HCC, for everyone, anytime, anyway.
Welcome back to Credential Up Houston in our discussion with Mr. Mitch Beckmann, Chief Human Resources Officer at Weber and one of the past presidents of HR Houston and still a director with the HR Houston organization. So, Mr. Beckmann, we're so delighted to have this conversation with you because you mentioned in the last segment about the partnership between businesses and educational institutions to ensure that we can create that pipeline. So businesses are able to get the talent they need and maintain their competitive advantage. So give us some idea of what you would see that partnership looking like. How would that be developed in order to ensure that we can educate students, even during COVID and other disruptions that may occur?
During COVID, I guess we're still figuring things out in that way. I think education itself, the different districts, and I'm seeing different mindsets from this school board to this school board on how they want to handle things. And sometimes we've let politics, we've let all kinds of things get in the way of it. And what we need to focus on, most importantly, are those students. We need to put the other agendas away, and we got to look at those young minds and those hearts, and how are we going to turn them and share with them how they can have a future, whatever it is they want to do. Man, that's what I would love to see that. One of the ways that I know that we do in Weber and I know in HR Houston and the HR world is connecting with universities and advisory boards or meeting with deans or teachers or fellowships that are going on and being involved with the curriculum and the development. It's important for the universities to hear back from the corporate world and these companies on how best to serve. What is it we're looking at when we're building things? How are innovation changing out on the work site? And what does that mean for the educators or the universities on what they're going to teach? Sometimes the corporate world is ahead of where the university is going. And so we have to always update that curriculum or update the way or capstones or things that universities are working on. So I think that's what's important. And so Weber, I have multiple of my team on the HR and recruiting. We're working on advisory statements. We have operations working on advisory boards with universities and sharing back with them what's important to us.
Well, I tell you what, we'd like to get you to serve on our advisory board as well at the Houston Community College, because I have followed your organization and you in particular and recognize the great work that you do. And the expertise that you bring to the table is very, very essential so that all of the students who are entering the various programs get the skill sets that are needed in order to go to work immediately. And that's one of the values associated with the partnership that you referenced is with Houston Community College and other community colleges. There are advisory committees that are comprised of business leaders, and they are headed by business leaders, and you hear about the changes that are going to take place. And many of those students who go through the programs not only go to work with industry, but they then move on to a university in many instances as well to complete a baccalaureate degree. So I think this is touching on something that is critically important that can be pursued. So I'm wondering for you now, as we look at the technology, how do you think technology will continue to influence work and the availability of workers for the construction industry?
We're living in a very remote workforce. We were very fortunate. Our IT team was way ahead, and it was a matter of 24 hours to 48 hours for me to tell my employees that are working in the offices, you're going remote. Pick up your monitor, pick up your laptop, get your mouse, whatever it is you need out of your office, take it home with you to set up your office. One of my colleagues said, man, you didn't have them sign a piece of paper or, inventory of everything they were taking. And we're like, no, we trust our employees. It's a matter of trust that we have with our employees. And there's a partnership right there, right? That's a part of our culture and who we are. And so the employees were able to set up their offices. Now, was it several weeks of learning how to work in this type of environment? Absolutely, it took time. But we're using Teams, we've used Zoom, we've used different things on how to do it. One of the things most important with the technology, there's sometimes there's a fear. What if I hit the wrong button? What if I am I on camera? We've seen the instance when people thought they weren't on camera and, they're, playing their head and they're picking their nose or who knows. I mean, we've all had different experiences or scenes like that. And so getting comfortable with technology, getting used to that you're always in the room. Somebody's always watching you when you're online doing something, and learning how to use that.
That's good.
One thing that I will say that I think that has been a blessing in the midst of this with technology and teams and when we're in the hallways, we kind of walk past, we say hello, we do miss that. We got to have that connection back again.
Of course.
We have to be able to shake hands again, not just fist bump, but I'm getting to know my employees like I've never known before. I'm being invited in their living room. I'm being invited in their kitchen. I'm seeing what they have on the walls. I'm learning that somebody has, loves Elvis or their husband loves. I'm meeting their pets, their dog. The most depressed person when we get back in the office, dogs, going to be absolutely depressed because somebody's home with them all the time. But look what we're learning about each other. I'm meeting their children and I'm having conversations. I mean, I called one person and their child actually 4 years old, knew how to click the thing open, and I'm just having a conversation with their 4-year-old, and tremendous. So I say we take advantage of this, we use it, and we learn new ways to connect with one another.
That's right.
And thank God for innovation that is allowing us as companies to be able to work this way.
I really like what you're saying because this is really humanizing.
Yeah.
We do in a way that being in the office perhaps would not open up for us into the lives of the people who work within the organization. So that creates a closer connection for everyone. Now, COVID has created a global problem.
Yeah.
For the workforce. And so what do you see the future holding for the construction industry in Houston particularly?
I think it's going to keep growing. I think that we need infrastructure. Matter of fact, I think it's going to let us catch up just a little bit about the needs that we do have during this period of time. Water, wastewater, there are issues that we have there, an aging infrastructure, if you will, of water, of roads, highways, and bridges, and it's going to allow us to be able to catch up on some of the work that we're doing there. I think our future as a country, as United States patriots, men, women, just we're seeing how we can come together. We're having a common cause to go fight and join together to solve issues. And I think that's a great thing. Make no mistake about it. COVID-19 has been devastating to many, but I think in the workplace, in a few years from now, we may look back and say, this might have been a really good thing because we're changing our mindset from a, that used to be, why should we do it? Now we're asking, why can't we do it? And so it's changing the shift in our mindset on how we approach work.
It certainly is changing that mindset on that. I agree with you. So, Mr. Beckman, we're going to take another break. I'd like for you to tell us how you have found in the work with human resources, there are certain areas where there are gaps in the labor pool that individuals can think about when we return, and would also like to talk about how individuals prepare for competitive careers in the construction industry. So please stay with us.
Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars.
Really tall.
I'm a rocket structural engineer designing and building parts of the rocket. You are the generation that will be stepping foot on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands?
Yes.
You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
I love teaching at HCC. I love helping students.
With college credits.
With scholarships and financial aid.
Training them for life-changing careers.
Come learn with us.
HCC, for everyone, anytime, anyway.
Welcome back to Credential Up Houston. We are continuing our discussion with Mr. Mitch Beckmann, Chief Human Resources Officer at Weber and past president of HR Houston and still a director with HR Houston. We are so pleased with the conversation we are having. And I'm wondering, Mr. Beckmann, where are the shortages that you're finding in your business in terms of that lagging labor pool that we can focus on briefly?
It hasn't really changed in this really COVID world. We've had getting engineers, young engineers, getting that talent developed. I think the areas, I had the privilege of several years ago being on Credentials Up, and we were at that time talking about upskill, right?
Right.
I think those things are still ongoing, even in this process of learning the knowledge, skills, and abilities for future work. We know that some jobs have gone away, and in COVID has eliminated some of those type of work. But new jobs are coming. And the world, not just the United States, are very adaptive, very flexible in seeing, okay, that's gone, but a new need is here. And so how do we skill up with that? I think that's something that we're working on, understanding the Generation Z, understanding still millennials, understanding generation. It's funny, we've always talked about millennials. Now millennials are asking, but who's this generation behind me
Yes.
that's coming in? And that's fun to sit back and watch.
It certainly is. It certainly is.
Yeah. So that area, it's, what?
Good.
It's what has always been there. The ability to communicate and to connect with one another. COVID has made it a little bit harder in some ways, and like I shared in the last segment, has opened up other areas. But I think it comes to communication and understanding expectations. Where we lack sometimes is that ability to get everyone aligned that we're working on a cause that we all can agree to.
That's so true. And very well said. I'm wondering, as you look at what is said to be 140 million Americans who are basically out of work, many of the individuals were marginalized, and many of them now are looking for jobs or they want to retool. What specifics would you share with us about the qualifications for the entry level jobs that individuals can apply for throughout the construction industry?
I think entry level from and sometimes in our world, we'll use the term professional.
Right.
Can I get on the soapbox just for a second?
Of course.
The blue collar worker is a professional also.
Right.
And there's the engineering and the management side of business, but we're all, whoever it is, at every level in an organization, if we can begin to look at everybody as the professional that are there. What I'm looking, I'm going to step off that box first. What I'm looking for are people that have a background. In their education, they've learned the basic language. If they're an engineer coming out of the university, what that education has told me is they have a capacity to learn. They have a basics foundation of what it means to be on a construction project. Now, when they show up day one, I want to know, are they willing to learn now? Because the real education is going to begin. You're going to take all that information that you've got over that last 4 years getting your degree, and now it's really going to go to work. Will you go talk to the other professionals out there on that project, the superintendents, the foreman, the carpenter, the laborer even, to understand how a project? And so I'm looking for somebody that has high energy, wants to learn, doesn't have the diploma, and now they think they've arrived, but they're showing up saying, not so much, take that John F. Kennedy moment. Don't ask what your country, but what you can do. Same thing in your company. Don't ask what the company's going to give you. Ask what it is that you can deliver. What is the value that you can bring to a company, to a group, to whoever you're with on that project? What is the influence that you have? Be influencers. Don't think about power. Don't think about being in charge, but think about being an influencer, and you're going to make a major difference. You're going to create value.
That's absolutely right. And of course, with the 2-year credential as well, we're finding that when a student gets the certificate or the associate's degree, that they're able to go into jobs. In fact, there have been indications of many of our students who have gotten their degrees, their associate's degrees in some of the specific fields, and they've gotten jobs starting at $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
And with other companies, perhaps starting at $80,000 or $70,000 a year. So it's really good. And I know that in the construction industry, the jobs are, well, high-paying jobs as well, depending upon the level that you're in. So as we look at the population that might be looking for employment in the industry, what do you suggest to them? Of course, they want to move to the level of being in charge, and you don't want to hear that. So what should they say in an interview? How do they prepare the resume? How do they prepare their cover letter? And what are some of the do's and don'ts you should keep in mind?
Don't just send out a general specific blank letter. Understand the company that you're talking to. What is it they do? How are they creating value and the service that they're providing or the product that they're delivering? Understand what that is. Then understand how you, in that position that you're applying for, what is it about you that's going to bring value? When you're, let's say the company has to and all the time, there's 2 things in value I have to understand. One, how does that position deliver value? And then how do you, in that position, deliver value to it's about deliverables. It really is. And in your attitude, how do they communicate? So go on the website, learn and study the company that you're at. Maybe go on LinkedIn, find 2 or 3 people that work at that company, get in a dialogue, see what they're posting, what's important to that company. Be tied in, be invested already before showing up for the interview and what's going on in the life of that company.
Those are excellent recommendations. That's great. So in your years of experience, we only have just a few seconds left in our interview today, unfortunately, but what has been the most, without sharing the trade secrets of Weber, but what have you heard throughout the industry have been some of the mistakes that individuals have made in the formal interview? Very briefly, what is it that they definitely should not say?
Don't go in asking what the company's all going to do for you. Just what I just shared. Go in there and already know that. How are you going to add to the value of that company?
Okay.
Focus on that. Focus on the company and the position. What is the slight edge? What is it about you that's going to be different from don't come in and say you're going to work hard. Everybody's going to come in and work hard. What is it? What experience do you have being a scout or some community, or what you've done working with a mission group or whatever it is that's going to help you to have the slight edge with that
Excellent.
company.
Excellent. Mr. Beckman, this has been so excellent. It's good to see you again. And thank you so much for joining us. This has been a very informative interview and provides guidance for individuals in general, but particularly for individuals seeking to retool and for our students as well who will be graduating very shortly. I also thank you, our viewers, for watching. If you're interested in credentialing up in any career field, go to hccs.edu/now and take a look at the many certificate and degree options available to you. Again, thank you for joining us. This has been Credential Up Houston. We will see you again next time.